Welcome to SPSM. I am so excited. We've got some fabulous guests tonight, and we are going to show you a fabulous social media skill in preparation for hashtag. This is what I've learned to do. Hashtag AAS16 for those of you who are going to be in Chicago. Hashtag. Isn't that great?
That's some kind of gang sign for me? Are you sure that's
yes,
great?
And I think you should definitely use this a lot in Chicago, Bart.
Shots by urbanites.
Oh.
Ooh, is that me?
I think we got too many people on the.
We will
We've
see.
exceeded the Hangouts limit.
I'm going to do some brief introductions. I am at Doc Foreman. I am a psychologist. I serve veterans as a suicide prevention coordinator in Louisiana. I'm not speaking on behalf of Veterans Affairs today, but I am talking about suicide prevention as a psychologist, and we've been hosting this. We're wrapping up on season 3 of SPSM in the second year that we have done live shows. We're really excited because we're going to be talking about social media and trends in the future of suicide prevention. We're going to be talking about the lived experience community and how they're using media to really help each other tell their stories and connect and bust stigma and involve themselves effectively in the system, the design of a system that helps them. And we're going to talk about using Periscope to do that today. And I'm pretty thrilled that you are here. I would like to introduce my intrepid co-host, Dr. Bart Andrews.
Greetings, everybody out there in SPSM land, or as we like to say, did we agree on spasm or spusum?
I feel like this would go wrong if we do that, but I'm okay with that, obviously.
We're we're having a debate on how to actually pronounce SPSM, so I'll just stick with the reading Foreman's nonverbals. I'm going to stick with SPSM. Hashtag SPSM. And so I'm excited about the show. I am Dr. Bart Andrews. I am also a psychologist. I work at the Amazing Behavioral Health Response, a wonderful crisis organization handling crisis calls in Missouri since 1994. I'm so excited about our guests. I'm excited to be talking about Periscope. I love Periscope. One of the coolest Periscope experiences was when Des and Lisa Klein did an AMA, Ask Me Anything, for the S-Word documentary. That was such an amazing experience, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. So I want to learn more because my Periscoping skills aren't the best, and I don't have the right equipment, I've been told, to Periscope correctly.
Fine, Bart.
Well, that's on camera. That's what she says. Okay, and but anyway, I can't wait. We've got amazing guests, and so I'm glad to be here. Happy Easter for those that celebrate, and happy Sunday in April or March, whatever it is, for those who don't.
I think is it also Purin?
Yeah, I think it was.
Purins?
I'm gonna get it wrong, but that's okay. What's new? So we're going to be talking a little bit about Periscope, and I want to talk to you a little bit about today's show. We have a couple of guests with us who are going to be getting Periscope tutorials really today because they're planning to use it at hashtag AAS16 to debut or to help really spread their conference content. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite Karens of all the Karens, Karen Carlucci. Say hi to the people.
Hi, people. Hi, I'm Karen Carlucci. I'm very excited to be officially on the program. I have been following you guys and very excited. I know April, Bart, and Shelby from being at the Lifeline previously.
You still came on the show.
Of course. I still want to be friends. Oh, yeah, you guys are great. So yes, Karen Carlucci at KCarl7 is the handle, as we say, and I am looking forward to being at AAS this year. This will be I was counting the years, and I think it's for the 9th year that I'm going, which it sounds so crazy.
Wow.
But this year I will actually be there representing Cognito. I joined Cognito in September, and
Cognito and X-Men is something else.
Not X-Men. Not X-Men. She wants to know what Cognito is, Karen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait, I have a thing on my screen. Okay, so Cognito has been around since 2003, and we specialize in developing digital simulations that are available online and in mobile app form as well. And what we really zero in on is allowing people to practice in a comfortable simulated learning environment, the art of conversation, and to practice those important conversations that can make an impact on others' health. So obviously this is very relevant. I happen to be a licensed clinical social worker with a lot of practitioner background, doing lots of groups and working in private practice. And I think we all know in the work that we do that the #1 tool we have at our disposal are our words and the way we engage people and the conversations that we can have and the impact that they can make. So I think any tools that we can put in the bucket to make available to others on a large scale can only be a good thing. So I'm excited to be presenting, well actually I'm not presenting, but I'm coordinating some of the presentations we have going on in next week already. So we're going to talk about that.
You usually get a whole group of people and you herd cats until valuable content comes out of us. And I've now done a couple of collabs with you, and I'm deeply appreciative of your cat herding skills.
Oh, good. Yes, that's one of my things, right? Yes. So, but I know I bring the talent together. Is really all I have to do.
She's fabulous. And I'm also super excited because Shelby, I don't know if you've been on the show before, right?
I have never been on the show. This is my first time.
No!
First time.
No! You're one of my favorite people, and also I feel like I want to show pictures of horses. Shelby,
Yeah.
tell people who you are.
Hi, I am Shelby Rowe. You can find me at Twitter at Shelby Rowe by NYC. It's terrible. I don't even know my own Twitter handle. That's how bad I am with social media. Google Shelby Rowe. You'll find me. I am the Manager of Education and Prevention Programs at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I met Bart many years ago, 2007, and I still came on the show. I met Bart when I was the Executive Director of the Arkansas Crisis Center, was on the board of National Association of Crisis Center Directors, and now I love what I do with AFSP. We have, as you may know, we have 84 grassroots chapters all over the country, and it is my job to help build their capacity to be able to deliver evidence-based programs and then make sure they have good evidence programs to deliver. So again, I have massive cat herding skills to get volunteers all over the country for 84 chapters to really get excited about doing what we would like them to do. But they're the best people on the planet. I love working with them and for them, and so happy to be here tonight.
And one of the things that I want everyone to know, and maybe one of the reasons why I feel like Shelby's been on the show, we've spoken at events like sort of next to each other for a little while now, and Shelby's particularly known for being a very effective storyteller when it comes to talking about lived experience. And so often she brings volunteers together, she brings people with lived experience together, shows them how to make a difference, and she does this through her excellent storytelling and emotional connection skills. And this is one of the things, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but I just really want to say this is one of the things that I personally find very special about Shelby. And so I'm really excited that we found a reason to be on the show together.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't even pay April to say that about me, but I do appreciate that. I love to tell stories, and one of the most powerful stories that I do tell with my work is I talk about my own personal lived experience. I kind of help bring a humanity to that. So, you know, hashtag lived experience, AAS 16, come and see me. But yeah, so I do talk about lived experience. It's not part of my day job, but AFSP is wonderful and lets me do it. And it intersects a little bit, but I love the work that I do as someone with lived experience, as an attempt survivor, on the side of my day job.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you were doing that in addition to everything else you do. Holy moly.
For punishment. Yeah, it's not part of my job description, but they let me do it anyway, and I love it. So I'm so excited to have Karen and Shelby here. One of the things that I love that they are here is that I've gotten to do several presentation collabs with them, and so I know that they're really good at creating content that people want to attend and that people want to talk about and about bringing people together. And so we're going to talk about a tool. And both of you separately came to me with the exact same thought about conferences. And so I'm going to sort of start the story, and then I would like to give each of you a chance to tell your version of sort of the middle of it, because the end is happening, of course, next week.
So, so some of you know, hashtag AAS16, it's the conference for the American Association of Suicidology. A lot of people on the Twitter stream are going to be there. A lot of people who aren't going to be there, Sean Urger, we're talking to you because we're going to be so sad you're not going to be there, are still going to follow via social media. And, of course, we're so very lucky. This is maybe our third year. Is it our third or fourth year? I can't remember, Tony, of doing a social media team. I think it's our third with them. And we're having several people share content. And we're also really there to support members of the conference becoming engaged and using social media to really serve their mission with their content and their presentations. Because people like Shelby and people like Karen right down here, they work really hard for like months in advance of the conference to put together really quality content. And then they both sort of came to me and said, we have some thoughts about where our panel or where our presentation was scheduled, and we're trying to do some problem solving. And I'm wondering if I could get Karen to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Thanks. I'm just pausing because I heard, okay, a little feedback. I wanted to get some people together for a panel with our CEO, Ron Goldman, and with you, as you know, being on the panel, we're very excited, and Sally Spencer-Thomas, of course, from the Carson J. Spencer Foundation, and Brian Hepburn of NASPID, the Executive Director of NASPID out of Maryland. So the idea that we had at Cognito was to really look ahead, since we see ourselves as having a bit of a futuristic view of how we can approach mental health issues and altering stigma and making a difference on the overall culture. But we thought that just looking ahead and having you all part of this panel would shape it up really nicely. So in doing that and coming up with those ideas, obviously we want to have a far reach, right? We want to make sure that everyone can be part of this conversation. This is intended to be a dynamic discussion, exploring possibilities, really not thinking so much in the box that we often think of. And in order to bring ourselves out of our typical box, we need to invite other people into the discussion, and the more the merrier. So I thought, well, April, who would be great on this panel, also could probably help in extending the reach of such a discussion, not just at AAS, not just in the room that we're going to be in for that Thursday slot at 4:30, but even like beyond those walls, and having everyone feel comfortable to say, yeah, we care about this now, we cared about it 5-10 years ago, but we need to care about it looking ahead, and let's make sure that we're not forgetting or overlooking some of the possibilities of what we can consider, and having everyone feel like they can contribute to this, and everyone feel like they're being included. So technology clearly is it's something we can't avoid. It's going to be part of our future in whatever which way we cut it. Not that we are looking to replace any of the core fundamental methods that we already know and take advantage of, but we also want to access technology and exploit it, if you will, currently to do what you're all doing with the SPSM chats every Sunday. You're allowing for people to follow that may not know all of you, that may not really know what it's about, but they feel safe just checking in and following this hashtag and being part of the discussion. So I really wanted to get April's input on, well, how could we make this something that others can be part of and learn from, but also contribute to. So that's what we're doing. We're going to learn about how we can make this more exposed to others who are not able to attend the presentation, who are not perhaps even at AAS, who don't even know who the heck any of us are, but care about the subject and care about, well, what's going to happen in the future of how we can all contribute to, obviously, the ultimate goal of zero suicide. And that's what I'm excited to learn more about tonight as well.
So, Karen comes to me and says, we want to have this dynamic conversation, but we were just getting tweets from people like Amelia, and she says, I'm looking at my conference app, and it's entirely full of conflicting sessions, and I can't attend everything I want to attend. We have people like Sean who are not going to be there, but who are very interested in things like social media, suicide prevention, the future of mental health. And so there are a lot of people who want to be in the room and who you want to be in the room, and so we got to figure out a way to include them. And we're going to talk about like why you would be inclusive even at a conference where people are paying for a seat in the room. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Shelby separately came to me, which I thought was totally awesome, around about the same time several weeks ago as Karen. Shelby, talk a little bit about what was going on in your mind.
Okay, so I got together with Bart Gay and DeQuincy Lazine, and we wanted to do a session at AAS where we just, each of us are professionals in the field, we each have lived experience, and there are just some lingering misconceptions and myths. And so we wanted to foster that conversation and guide people through some of these barriers that we feel are really getting in the way of effectively helping people with lived experience. One is there's still a big contingent that's a little nervous about peer support, that's nervous about us talking with each other. You know, there's this perpetual myth that attempt survivors are perpetually fragile, that you have to, you know, we have to be under constant supervision. And there are different things like that that, you know, we were really hoping that we would draw, you know, a good base of mental health professionals, public health, other people with lived experience, and that we would facilitate a good conversation. You know, we picked, you know, our 5 favorite myths that we wanted to address and talk about. But we were really hoping to get some good feedback from the audience. And, you know, like it sounds like some of our tweeters, as I look through the program, there are so many other things I want to see. And so I came to you, April, because I thought, you know, we really want a good conversation, and we're not sure we're going to get the right people in the room, but I know through SPSM chat, the right people are online and social media. And so I was really looking for opportunities to bring those people in, that you don't have to be in the room to be part of that conversation with us. And so I was looking for ways, looking for tips from you of how we can start that conversation before, during, and then afterwards to keep that going. Because it's not just a presentation, like we really want to see a shift in the culture of how those who work in preventing suicide, who work in treating individuals who've had thoughts of suicide, work with us and let us be a part of the team as an equal player.
Well, absolutely, because I mean, you're not an equal player. You're like the center of the system. So of course we want to have a conversation. And you know, and the truth is that in Karen's case, where we're talking about the future of suicide prevention, we really want to talk to people who are specialists in the field, but we also want to talk, and we'll talk a little bit about why the future of suicide prevention involves a lot of stakeholders outside of our traditional field she wants to invite to the table. And for you, Shelby, you know, busting myths for people who, you know, if you're preaching to the choir, I mean, you sing a pretty song, but you don't get a lot of converts, right?
Exactly.
So we want to have a different kind of conversation. So I want to talk a little bit about Periscope, because I've been Periscoping now for about a year-ish, and I'm going to talk about how I found out about this. So last year, right following AAS 16, which is the only reason why we didn't do this last year, I just didn't know about it, I was presenting at NatCon about social media, suicide prevention, and talking a lot about just doing it. Like, have a social media plan. It's better to just do it and get out there than it is to just not try anything. And talked about, like, you know, this bold spirit of streaming and broadcasting and all the stuff. Talked about how we do a live show all the time, and we do a live show about suicide, and it's fine. You know, everything turns out fine. And so, of course, my friend Jason Pratt, who was on the panel, along with my friend Ed Bennett, and Jason, Ed, I don't know if you're listening, but you two are just rocking it. And Jason and Ed are like, well, are you on Periscope? Like, because that's where all the cool kids from the Mayo Clinic are, you know, like the cool kids do, right? And I was like, what is this thing? And they're like, well, it's way better than Meerkat. I'm like, I don't know how any of this works. I'm just a shrink. And they're like, well, you need to sign up for Periscope. So, like, Tony and Jason and Ed are helping me sort of figure out Periscope right then. And they're saying you can use your cell phone, and I'll show you the app. Hopefully no embarrassing notifications come up. This could be even more exciting, right? Where is my Periscope app? Huh. Oh, and I'm not seeing where it's happened on my phone, but that doesn't mean anything. I sometimes accidentally delete things, and that may have occurred.
Live television at its best, folks. Live television at its best. You can't get this anywhere else. Only on SPSM do you get this kind of information.
Right? So let's say that you wanted to, Shelby or Karen, get Periscope. So we'll do this like totally legit. We hit the search button, and I signed up for Periscope, and I did it right then. And I have to tell you, Periscope is the app that I use. That's where I first learned about the breaking news of the birth of Princess Charlotte, right? Obviously, because I started getting news because everybody was standing outside of the door broadcasting with Periscope, all these journalists. And that was when I was like, dude, if it's good enough for the future, you know, princess of, you know, Wales, like, we could probably use it for suicide prevention, right? So this is what it looks like on your phone if you guys are doing this. And so if you are like me and you stream too many things simultaneously, it all crashes. I've got my Wi-Fi turned off, and I'm just using my regular cellular phone. I'm opening Periscope right now, and the good news is, like, you can be a goofball like me. It's not too terribly. I mean, it's really meant for people with my level of skill and your level of skill. It's not meant for fancy Tony people, right? And Periscope is live. Enable notifications. I'm going to enable notifications. You don't have to do that. I turned the notifications off when I started following people and I started getting really regular videos, but you can edit that. It lets you know how it works. You can skip the tutorial if you want. But basically, because no one I'm following is live right now, right? But when you're using Periscope, it's not too terribly hard. There's some buttons down there, and you can just hit this fancy little button right here, and you can do a broadcast. You can start a broadcast, and you see you can enable your camera, enable your microphone, enable your location if people want to know. You could not enable those things. And here on Periscope, it's very, very simple. It's going to say, like, what are you seeing now? Now, Periscope is attached to your Twitter account. And so it's going to push a notification to your Twitter audience. That's another reason why I like this app, is that it's really connected up with the rest of my social media platforms. So you're going to type in a title of your broadcast that really matches what you'd use for Twitter. So you would use hashtags like, you know, hashtag AAS. 16, you would use things like hashtag SPSM or hashtag LiveEXP, or you might use hashtag, I think I've been using 10YR for our presentation, Karen. We can change, I've been using that. And so we might put SPSM is live and just like this, and demoing Periscope, right? So look how meta we're going to go, right? And I'm even going to put the conference hashtag in just in case. So look, we're going to be live streaming from 2 things at once because that's how connected we are. And then it's going to show you a screen that just sort of shows you where you're filming, and it's going to start the broadcast. And look, if you were following me on Periscope, you can also see that it's broadcasting from the phone. Here is my camera. People are joining us literally right now. If you can see that, it's just pretty cool. They're giving us some hearts. And hearts are things that people give you like likes, right? And this can broadcast, and Noreen has joined us. Look at this. And so we can even, if you double tap, to flip the camera, so I'm double tapping. Look, now I'm live on this camera, I'm live on that camera. Noreen's losing her mind. Mike Sevilla's on. We're able to basically, check this out, this little view of the Doc Foreman Easter Kitchen, right? Here's us, right? We're broadcasting. So I want to say hello to everyone. Shelby, you just joined?
I did. Very cool.
How easy is that, right?
Very cool.
Really designed to be. Hi, Noreen. Noreen says, hey, April, there's a comment of hers. There's more hearts. Mike Sevilla is saying hello, so we want to say hi to Dr. Mike. Like, this is how easy it is for you to live stream just using your cell phone. Now, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and let me show you how to end one. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Look at all these great comments that are coming in on Periscope. It works so well. And we're just going to swipe down to stop, and then you just can hit stop broadcast. And then it shows us that we had, look at that, in that very short period of time, look at those stats. We had 20 viewers. We were just on very, very briefly, and a bunch of people sort of popped onto Periscope, right? So it's pretty easy if you want. Now, there are a couple of downsides. So number one, Periscoping uses a ton of battery and a ton of data. You would not want to live stream something with Periscope unless you were connected, that is very long, unless you're connected to the internet and to a wireless connection, or you have paid for some ridiculous amount of cell phone data, okay? So I don't want anyone to show up and blow all their money on cell phone data and then say I didn't tell you so because I told you so. And the second thing is that it uses a tremendous amount of battery power, and I'm going to talk about ways that we manage that. But overall, we just popped in for how many duration? 1 minute and 31 seconds, 21 viewers. It's a pretty easy way. Now let's talk a little bit about, first of all, I'm going to check in with Bart to get Bart's reactions. Have you Periscope, Bart? I don't know.
I think I might have been Periscope, but it didn't. I think we had some technical difficulties. I just was on Periscope watching you both here and on Periscope, which was just trippy as all get out. But we've watched the SPSM network has had a few full sessions Periscoped over last year, and it's always amazing to be able to say, "Oh, weren't you Periscoping? You were Periscoping the veterans thing." Yeah. So that was an example. What was that, April? What was that veterans?
We had the Veteran Suicide Prevention Call to Action. This was in Washington, D.C. I showed up and I said, hey, I'm going to be live tweeting, and I have some people who would like to also watch and live tweet remotely. And they had been going back and forth of whether or not they would live stream the event. Eventually what happened was that the Department of Veterans Affairs wanted to really film the presentations and edit them. And you can see them on the YouTube playlist. And I totally see why they wanted to do that. The filming was great. And that was why they wanted to do that. But they gave me permission, and we'll talk about asking for permission. Because also I'm their employee, so I'm definitely not going to be a jerk to VA. Plus, I think they're great. And so I asked permission. They gave it to me officially. I live streamed it so you guys could see it, and I had to sit near the outlets in the back of a very stuffed room. So the shot was not great, but you could still hear the audio. And people use the Periscope to live tweet, which is a great way to amplify a message, and we're going to talk about message amplification a lot because of what Shelby and Karen are doing. It's really important. You need to be, like, in a social media way, you need to be loud. So Periscope is a way you can do that, and it worked really well. And was that your first time on Periscope, Bart?
No, but I think one of the things that was very powerful. So okay, so the YouTube videos that they made and then posted are beautiful. That's great. But there's such a big difference between participating in something live as it's happening, as opposed to watching this flat, dead video after the fact, right? I mean, it's really the difference between watching a video on YouTube versus being at a concert. And when you Periscope that session, there are a bunch of us that live tweeted that, and the level of engagement and the movement that we got around that event was absolutely phenomenal. And you're not going to get that from a YouTube video. People are going to sit around and live tweet a YouTube video, and people are going to interact in that fashion. And so I don't remember how many tweets we had or how many impressions we had that day, but the level, it was incredible.
We trended on Twitter, and the groundhog was the only thing that beat us.
It was absolutely incredible. And the other thing that was interesting is I still have people that I connected with on Twitter during that event that still reach out to me, and I reach out to them. So one of the things that's cool about Periscope is you turn a live event and live tweeting, you turn these events into things that exist in the moment. You connect a bunch of other people, and relationships are formed and experiences had. And that's just absolutely incredible. And that's why I think it's so powerful.
That was a really very insightful commentary, and that's another reason to do Periscope. It's really a lot of what that social media extension is. It's about behind the scenes. It's about being live. It's about like you were there if you can't be there, so that you can really be up on it. You know, you don't have to wait until the video, the YouTube is produced or launched or whatever. You're You get to be part of it, and from wherever you are. So wherever anybody was, if you had a cell phone. And by the way, you can also go to Periscope, I think, .tv, and you can watch Periscopes on your computer live as well. So this is just it's a great tool, quite honestly. Karen, Shelby, this is like I said that I would teach you. What are your reactions as you're watching us do the tutorial?
It's exciting. It's a lot to process. I was impressed that Shelby was able to get on so quick. For me, multitasking, it's like I have to listen, and then I'm going to play with this later. But I think it's really important, as Bart was highlighting this as well. But I do think it's really important that in our field, the overall mental health field, that we demonstrate that we can be part of this modern world and that we can be exposing all of these important issues in the most futuristic way. So we're current but also ahead of the game, and I think that's just really important. So I'm happy to be seeing all of these types of initiatives that we're incorporating. We're not just kind of standing by what we're used to, and that you're all experimenting as well, and I think that's what it is. And there's a lot I think there's a lot for us to learn from each other.
Absolutely can't agree with you more. Like, if we're going to talk about messaging and if our mission really is building a system for folks to save lives, if we really believe that people are dying, if we really believe that we need to change attitudes and that lives depend on it, then we must use the most effective communication means at our disposal. Like, that's just, if that is your mission, if you're really serious about it, then you've got to be willing to use things, especially things that are free, that are part of the mainstream. It seems reasonable to give it a try. But of course, Noreen, I clearly manage to do two things at once, and that's with practice. And Tony also hits me. It really hits me, just emotionally abuses me into using them. So I will tell you, there's a lot of crying, and I'll talk with you about things that Tony has taught me about using Periscope, because I'm older too. Or you're young as spring, but for me, I am not, I am not Gen X, and so, am I Gen X? I think I'm like, I don't know, I'm like on that.
Yeah, you're not a baby boomer.
I know. It's like
you're not a millennial. So what are you then?
I don't know. It's not second nature to me. I'm not a digital native. How about that? Shelby, what are your thoughts? You were like on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had downloaded Periscope April, when you and I did the Pointer Institute in Dallas last summer. I had asked you to Periscope me because I saw you and Tony playing with all your cool toys, so I wanted to play too. So you were really sweet and Periscoped my presentation, and so I had.
That's sweet. That's me delivering content to the people that the people want.
It was awesome. I went to the airport, sat and watched it before I got on a plane. I was like, yes. And then by then, our social media person at AFSP, she was gone for the workday. And then I couldn't figure out how to save it, if there was any way to save the Periscope so that other people could see it later, because I wasn't good about getting that link out to others. So any tips on that, on either better to get it out there, or is there any way to save it so that when you're not that social media savvy, that you have something to pass on to the more social media savvy people that you know to help you get it out there?
So the short answer is absolutely yes. The long answer is this is what Tony is for, and so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, so Periscope caches your video for 24 hours only. So if people are following you, if they don't see it live, they've got a one-day window that they can watch it on the app. You can also then download it and then distribute it in any social media medium that you would like, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I have a Tony for a reason, and that exact problem is my reason.
Okay.
And I will tell you, so he's my right, or he's one of my hands. I'm not sure. Is there a hand that's offensive to me? I'm not sure. Bart, you think you were saying something?
Actually, I wasn't, but I will. I think that one of the things that Shelby's talking about is so important that if there's a quick way or some tips we can give folks, Tony, hint, if you could send us some links or something about how you get Periscope content onto YouTube. Yeah, we can. Tony likes a good wink. You wink. better than I do, actually. But I think that's really important. I think one of the things that when Shelby and Karen were talking, over the years, Shelby and Karen have created all this amazing content. And like when Suicide Lifeline does webinars, that gets recorded, right? But we have all these conference sessions. I mean, think all the times Draper has spoken, and it doesn't exist anywhere, right? When you can get this stuff periscoped or recorded and then get it on YouTube, then there's so much more power in that. I love the active engagement and the live stuff. But creating an archive of all of this tremendous work we're doing is so important. And I actually saw Shelby. Somebody periscoped. I think April, we were just talking about this. You periscoped Shelby's, and it was so amazing to see you talk live. I mean, we were all just in awe of what you were doing. You were so impressive, and I wouldn't have been able to experience that. Here I'm at work in St. Louis, and I'm getting to watch you present at this conference halfway across the country. And it was truly incredible. So I think that's the power of this tool.
Karen, were you having any thoughts or reactions to that? I was watching your face.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it obviously, like Bart said as well, like there's a powerful, the power of being in person and the live energy can't be replaced. However, it can be extended and it can be duplicated. And like I was saying earlier, we can further that reach with these types of tools, and then I think it catches fire more so, especially now with those who are living and breathing with their devices so much and are real hip and knowing about all of this stuff. They are immediately going to say, oh, well, how can I get this on Periscope? Like, you know, I'm just a few hours late, but I want to catch that. And it goes to show that the interest is not fleeting, you know, and that it's actually something that people want to grab, but they just can't grab it in that instant, even though that might be ideal. But let's face it, none of us are all available in the same moment. We know how hard it is to get people in a room and have that experience, but that experience can be shared, and all of these tools, like the more we get comfortable with them and use them wisely, of course, and appropriately, that they're something that I see as very advantageous and really helping to, like I said, not just light fires, but keep them going and really get people's, involvement in a way that they can stick by it and not feel like they can only, oh, I missed it, so it's over. No, they actually can be part of something in an ongoing way.
Absolutely. And so one of the tweets sort of that are guiding our conversation in the Twitter sphere is like, so if people are paying for a conference ticket, why would you give the content away for free? Yeah. So I'm going to have a minute where we're going to have a Doc Foreman moment. So when somebody sort of mentioned this on the little SPSM sort of Facebook chat, and I maybe had not had my coffee, and sometimes when I have not slept a lot and I've not had coffee, things that are less charitable come out of my mouth. But this is the charitable version of that. If your mission is to make profit doing with specialty expert knowledge, then you need to have proprietary, meetings with proprietary information, where people sign non-disclosure agreements, and they do it in tiny little rooms in secret. And that's totally fine. If your mission is to save lives through the prevention of suicide through education, building better public health care systems, et cetera, then in the service of your mission, you should be distributing your information to anybody who needs it and finding a way to get them to get to it. It is perfectly okay for TED, where the seats cost $10,000 a piece. And that was a couple of years ago, maybe more now. $10,000. TED gives all of their highly expensively produced content. And believe me, TED produces little YouTube videos at much greater expense than when I'm going to be sitting at a table with a microphone. All of their content they give away for free. And remarkably, TED has no difficulty selling those $10,000 seats, because people want to go not just for the information. I don't know. It may be true. I don't know. But I doubt that there's going to be anything we're going to present at AAS that you cannot read in a paper or look up or ask someone about. So it's not like going to the conference itself is the only portal to proprietary top secret information. Going to the conferences for focused time to reflect, for high engagement, for networking and collaboration with the best minds, and for this great experience in your professional development, for CEUs, things like that. That is why you pay for the seat and you travel and you take the week off of work and you make the sacrifice. But the information should be let free. It is part of your mission to do so, and when you can do it so easily, you would be behaving counter to your mission if you did not. And so this is my big speech. I'm not going to make Karen make it. I'm not going to make Shelby make it. I'm not going to make Bart make it. So if anybody's pissed, they can just be pissed at me. That being said, you shouldn't be a dick about it. So, a couple of things you should keep in mind.
I think being a dick about it is okay sometimes. I think it's fine and dicky to be assertive
being a dick
about
it your brand, like, go for it. I am not here to tell you how to be in the world, but I will say that is sort of the Will Wheaton golden rule of the social media. And so there are a couple things you should know. In some states, recording and transmitting people without their consent is considered wiretapping and may or may not be illegal. If it's in public, it may or may not. There are laws about this. You might consider, before you go, looking up what the wiretapping laws are in every state, because the laws were not written with these things in mind. But most times when people are acting in public as public figures, it is usually acceptable, like to Periscope and to broadcast. Nobody can really stop you from streaming or tweeting a presentation. Think of it like journalism. Journalists pretty much go and can go anywhere sort of for public. And so you sort of consider it sort of like the fourth estate. Is it the fourth estate? It's one of the estates. What, is it the first estate, the fourth estate? Which of the estates, for those of you who passed civics? Silence. Obviously, Doc Foreman needs to take a better civics class. So, but the basic deal is that journalism is important. Stop it, Bart. Journalism is really important, but it's good manners to ask anyway, even if you don't need their permission. If they're a real jerk to you about it, then you decide what you want to do about that. I would err on the side of letting people know, at least letting people know that you're going to Periscope, so that they know that they're going to be filmed. And you can let them know where they can see it or get it or share it. And a lot of times the way that you do that is, I'm going to be live tweeting this. I'm going to be sharing this information. I think what you're doing, and do this sincerely. Don't be a jerk about it. I mean it. I think what you're doing is so wonderful. I'm just like when I did with Shelby. Can I please broadcast it? Can I please share it? I'll make sure to send you the link so you can share it. And thank you so much for preparing and delivering this fabulous content. And most people really do they believe in what they say when it comes to suicide prevention. It's a mission. Clearly, Shelby sacrifices a lot to do this. Karen puts up with people like me, makes us mind, and do everything we're supposed to do so we're ready for the panel on time. So you get their permission. They're very likely to give it to you. If they're uncomfortable, show them how it works. Give them your Twitter account so they can follow you. Call one of the social media team over maybe to help, that kind of thing. Some good manners. I have seen very little in terms of Periscope etiquette. Usually anytime there's like Twitter etiquette and Facebook etiquette, there's very little in terms of Periscope etiquette, and it's very variable. So some people are like, only be positive, always get permission, like never say anything, do everything scripted, think about your makeup, think about your lighting. And then some people are like, be spontaneous, be yourself, have unscripted chats. It's really, I'm going to tell you that the bottom line is be effective and make choices about how you behave that serve your goals. And don't get too hung up about being perfect. It's so new that there isn't even like one standard for how it's supposed to go. Hooray! Any thoughts to that for the three of you? That was a lot of monologuing from Foreman.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was charitable. It was charitable. And you worked in the fourth estate. I didn't see that coming. I would have been more prepared if I'd have known that we were going to talk about that. I think in reliving some of the recent conversations about this, it's really interesting because folks tend to fall into one of two camps. There's a group of folks that believe information and conferences are this kind of zero-sum game, right? We have this protected resource, and you have to pay to come to this, and we don't want anybody else to have this without paying to get it. And if people can get it for free, why would they come to the conference? And it's really interesting because they clearly don't understand conferences, they don't understand their audience, and they don't understand that the game has changed tremendously in terms of how information and promotion works in this day and age. The world doesn't work the way that it used to anymore, right? And so one of the things that's really interesting is nobody is sitting there going, oh, I would go to this conference, but I can watch it on Periscope, so I won't go. I don't think that's ever happened one single time in the history. And, it's not a long history, but I don't think it's happened one single time since Periscope started. And so it really gets at this idea that in this day and age, information is power. And the more information that you want, the more it gets out there, the more people get their hands on it, the farther it spreads. It benefits you and it benefits them. So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement when that information gets shared and spread out all over the place. And I think that that's one of the things that folks are really struggling with, is that there's this concept of proprietary information. What does that mean? And if you're a business and you're making specific money off this specific piece, then that's a different story, and I get that. But when we're talking about information, bringing a group of people together to share and connect around whatever that mission is, whether that mission is suicide prevention or it's awareness about a certain social problem or a new way of doing things, the more people that know about it, the better. You're also benefiting the folks that are presenting, because we've talked about this. Folks put a lot of work into their presentations. If the presentation stops with the 30, 60, 80, or 100 people at that session, that's great. You've impacted 30, 60, 80, 100 people. But if it gets like tweeted, if it gets Periscoped, if it gets YouTubed, and it gets out there in the information sphere, it can benefit thousands, hundreds of thousands, and sometimes even millions. And so it's really about what you want to, what your goal is. And April, you talk about this all the time. What is your mission? What's your mission? What's your goal? And then think about what you're doing in terms of what your goal is. And if your goal is to spread information and share the wealth, then social media is one of the ways to do it. And I think you've got the whole concept of, when I've tried to live tweet with a certain message in my head, or a certain, well, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that, I just can't do it, right? I've just got to experience the moment and tweet the way things are happening. And if you can't do that, if someone is saying, well, we only want you to tweet positive things, well, then that's PR. That's not live tweeting. That's not information sharing. That's advertising, and that's a totally different thing in and of itself, right? And it's interesting that very few folks do that, put conditions on people on what they can tweet or not tweet. Other folks.
As a person in the audience, by the way, and I'm not going to name names, but if you're like, oh, you can't do that, and I think you're being kind of a dick as a presenter, I'm going to remember and tell that story about you later that night, just letting you know, because I'm not sometimes charitable.
Have you ever had somebody tell you not to tweet a session?
Oh, yeah. I had someone say, you can't tweet this out. And I was in a huge auditorium, and I was like, ding, 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 ding. Now, Desiree Stage is saying that's disrespectful and you don't want to be a jerk, and I totally agree. Let's be clear, I'm going to own that I'm a little oppositional defiant about that. I would tell you the better path of virtue is to find a way to have a good relationship with your speaker so that they're not anxious.
Well, and there's a respect issue, and I think that there's a level of it's about relationships, right? And I think that if we want to be respectful, then we might ask. I'm trying to think. I think I've asked a few times, but I often just show up and start live tweeting a session. Do you ask every time you live tweet?
No, I don't. Twitter was really new, and the person who was speaking sort of knew of me and still is not a fan. Is a person in our field still not a fan of social media, and sort of the person made an announcement, and I still to this day tell that story, and it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You can't just announce something in an auditorium and say it can't be on Twitter. I don't know if you. I will tell you my Gen X reaction to that is, you clearly don't know how the world works, and I don't think you're in any position to give me. You're not a person who is my boss or an authority figure, and you're clearly clueless about how this works. So I'm really not fond of you telling me what to do in a way that is uncharitable and memorable years later. And I want you to be really clear. If you're a speaker who is hearing this, I want you to be clear that you might inspire. I'm going to be respectful, but you might inspire less respectful behavior if you treat your audience that way. And you should know that, because how the world works is important to know. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that person may not dig you and may say nasty things about you and may be nasty memes about you, and they may have a bigger digital footprint than you. So I would not treat my audience like that.
I agree. So Shelby and Karen, what are your thoughts on this? On asking people and this sort of, where are you guys at? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that, as we said earlier, it is a polite gesture to just say, hey, want to make sure you guys know. Like I said, this on the call with our co-panelists, April, the other day for the panel that the future of suicide prevention. I just said, hey, just want to let you guys know this is something April and I started talking about. I think we're going to figure out a way to live stream this. Obviously, we want to tweet. We hope that's cool with everybody. If for some reason you have questions, let us know. I think it's just kind of being fair and informing and inviting any thoughts, because I think some people are just maybe not clear about it, especially several years ago. The example that April's sharing, I'm sure there are plenty of folks still that are just like not quite sure, what does that really mean? What are you saying? Is something that that they're just protective out of a reflex of some sort. But we're all warming up to this, and I think we're all realizing that, again, it does go back to a mission, especially in this context of wanting to help people and support people ultimately, that this is all about connectedness, this is all about inclusiveness, and this just, I think, supports that. But I do think it's fair to just check in with people and make sure that everyone's comfortable and clear, and if they have any questions, let's talk about it so there isn't some misunderstanding.
Absolutely. Like, that is a much better answer.
And as a presenter, as someone who's gone and made lots of presentations, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, I would have been very uncomfortable with someone in my audience on their phone the whole time or on their computer. But now, that I've gotten more comfortable with social media, those people, I try to put on my PowerPoint slides, some sort of hashtag. For all my presentations at work, I was asking a 22-year-old in our office, what should I put on my PowerPoint for a hashtag, to kind of invite that, to let people know that it's okay to tweet my presentation. So I'll put that hashtag on the presentation, and then I'll say something at the beginning of my introduction. So where, as a speaker, it used to annoy me to no end, because then I start paying attention to them instead of my presentation. Well, what are they doing? Are they playing games? Are they paying attention? But now, sure, they may still be playing games, but they may be paying a lot more attention than the people whose body language, because you can look at me and nod your head yes and be totally tuning me out, where someone who looks like they're not paying attention could be tweeting away and just sharing all sorts of gems and really getting a lot more exposure for my presentation. So I think just me over the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot more welcoming as a presenter, and I don't take it personally when people don't look at me when I'm speaking anymore. It's like, please look at your phone, tweet. If I'm saying something that you think is tweet-worthy, get it out there so that more people can learn.
Shelby, that's really powerful. One of the things at NatCon, they were one of the keynote speakers. He actually took my tweet and he took my content from my tweet. He didn't give me credit for it, but it's okay because they were his words. But he took my tweet, took the content, and pinned it. That became his pinned tweet on his huge account, right? So it was a way for his speech to then he had something from his own speech to put on his Twitter feed. And I thought that was incredibly powerful. So rather than getting worked up about it, he took what I had done and turned it into something for his own purposes, which is exactly how the system should work as far as I'm concerned. It was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna add, I think this is a very good example of what you were saying earlier, Bart, with, it's not so much a competitive thing, it's more of a complementary exercise, and this is really, it's all about building on one another, not standing on top of or pushing someone aside, but building on top of one another in a positive way that only enhances the next effort. So, it's like taking a tweet and seeing that as something that can then be positioned in another way that even gives it more positive attention, and you're okay with that. You understand that, well, that's what this is meant for. You put it all out there for everybody to take or borrow or to alter in a way that suits them, and then you can do the same, and it all just builds on each other. And I think that's a very powerful, it's part of the movement, and there's no way for us to avoid that. I think it's a very something for us to embrace, for sure. But people are still learning, I mean, myself included, which is why I'm here.
And let's be really clear, I'm sure that is the case with that person. I'm just letting you know that your audience might not react well if you're not nice to them, and they may have a bigger reach than you in that room. But you guys are totally right that the better thing is to be charitable, to seek collaboration, to remember that a lot of people are new, to be kind, and I have to tell you, almost everybody, like 99.8% of the people, are super thrilled that you're covering their presentation, and we'll give them a link. Just real quick, we've just got a few minutes left. I want to answer a couple questions just while we're live, and I also want to make a super cool announcement, and then we're going to close out, let everybody know what they'll be presenting in at AAS. If you are periscoping, this is my favorite thing. This is a Tony recommendation. I think this was a birthday gift actually from Tony. This is a tripod. It's got like bendable legs, and your phone slips in like this, and your phone can also change angles, and your connections, like, so your ability to connect to a power cord is really helpful. So the things that I'm going to recommend if you're periscoping, number one, get your phone connected to the Wi-Fi. Number two, this is my battery pack, which needs to be charged clearly, and I'm going to attach my phone to a battery pack. This has about the equivalent of 3 phone charges in it. Hi, Noreen. That's probably because Tony recommended yours and mine, Noreen. They're very similar. And so I will attach these two together. If I can just plug in my phone, I'm going to plug in my phone. So I'm going to use the Wi-Fi, and I'm going to use the battery or plug in my phone. Sometimes you want to not have a lot of cords, so you can put that periscope and adjust it so that it's facing your speakers. You can really think about your shot before you broadcast. And you use this, and you use the Wi-Fi at your meeting room or your conference, and you use your battery pack so it will sustain the entire presentation. These are really not terribly expensive. I think this may be $10. This was really inexpensive, maybe, but there was a deal like 20 or 25 bucks. I'm thinking I got some sort of deal. And this allows me to basically be a live streaming broadcasting machine. And it's fabulous. So these are my big tips for tools. I also want to very briefly switch gears before we do final thoughts, because it's final thoughts. Everybody, some of you saw on Facebook and on Twitter, and Tony is tweeting out the link. SPSM is fabulous because of the collaborations that it builds. And one of our collaborations involved Chris Maxwell, myself, Tony Wood, and then Glenn Coppersmith and the folks at Quantify. And they have, I think, approached a problem in suicide prevention in a really unique way. So you're going to be seeing this at AAS. When you get a chance, go by the booth. I think everybody who shares data gets a t-shirt. But you know how you share data with your, like if you want to use an app with Facebook or with Twitter and you share your social media data, right? We do it all the time. That's how so much makeup ends up in my Facebook feed and nail polish. You can also share your data and donate it. Or donate the social media data, the account of someone who's died by suicide. And this money, not money, it doesn't even take any money, it takes like less than 5 minutes. And this data can be used for data science research on suicide. And so if they know that someone's died by suicide, and they know and they have access to the account, they have permission to look at an account, just collecting a few hundred data accounts probably is going to be able to lead to really new, groundbreaking information on what leads to somebody's suicide and the difference between someone who attempts and survives, someone who is sick but did not attempt, or someone who dies by suicide. We might be able to figure that out in a more surgical way. Tony is tweeting out the link to this. The tool is called Quark. There's an invitation to donate on the SPSM page. I am super thrilled that SPSM was able to really get the right people in the room to figure out a solution that respects people's like privacy, but also allows people to donate who want to. And so that's just a brief making you aware of that is, as of this week, that is the beta version of that is finally launched. So it's only been a few months in the making. They did it really quickly. They were amazing. We're going to do final thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and start. Let everybody know, a lot of us are presenting at AAS. I'm going to be on a couple of panels. One, Karen's going to talk about. I'm also going to be presenting on SPSM and social media. I believe this is the one with Singer, right? And Craig Bryan and Schmitz and Tony. There's a bunch of us. I don't remember even who's on the panel, but we're going to be talking about social media and suicide prevention and data science. It's going to be very cool. I'm going to be with Karen and like Desiree Stage, I know, who's tweeting. We're going to be doing short presentations, and mine's going to be on a future without suicide using social media. It's going to be pretty cool. And you're totally welcome to stream, tweet, hit me ups, keep the conversation going. I would love for my guests to just very briefly let everyone know where they can find you during the conference if they want to stream your events. Shelby, give it a shot.
All right, I have 2 events. On Thursday night, you can come see me at 4:30. I'm doing a presentation on Talk Saves Lives, which is a new standardized presentation that we have for our chapters, talk about the challenges and opportunities of getting effective suicide prevention and distributing it through volunteers. So we'll talk about that on Thursday night, 4:30. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be presenting with Barb Gay, DeQuincy Lazine. We want to have a good open conversation about really addressing these misconceptions and myths that surround attempt survivors and those with lived experience, and how we can get those out of the way, remove those barriers for more effective care and treatment, and help us heal and survive a lot better without all that extra baggage. So come see me Thursday night, Saturday night at 4:30 at AAS.
Woohoo! And Miss Karen.
All right. So yes, thank you, Shelby, and thank you, April and Bart. So we will, Cognito will be exhibiting, so you can easily find us, of course, with all the rest of the folks that are exhibiting. We will have some options to demo a variety of our programs of what might be of interest. So I encourage people, you can spread the word to come on by and check it out, and it'll be a lot of fun. And in terms of our presentation, so this is Cognito's, I think, 5th year in attending, and we've got 4 presentations happening, which is exciting. The one that April and I have referred to tonight is the future of suicide prevention, looking ahead the next 10 years, and that is Thursday the 31st at 4:30. And the panelists there, in addition to April, we have Cognito CEO Ron Goldman, who will touch on innovative technology application, looking ahead, and the pros and cons, and what that can really mean, and what we consider with mental health and suicide prevention. And then we have, in addition to April and Ron, we've got Sally J. Spencer, Sally Spencer Thomas, excuse me, that I mentioned earlier, and she will be touching on social movement, social justice, and all of the implications there, because we know this is a movement and what's behind that, the motor, and where that might take us. And then we have finally Brian Hepburn. And he, again, as you all know, I believe he is Executive Director of NASHBID, and he'll be touching on some legislation and policy stuff. So we're excited to have him there. John Japer will be moderating, so that's just, I think, right there, people will have fun with that, which John's going to have a lot of fun moderating. And then on Friday, there are 3 presentations happening at the same time at 4:30. Our co-founder of Cognito and Director of Research, Dr. Glenn Albright, will be touching on the power of conversations. I think that will be really interesting in terms of the research behind the work that we've been doing. And then we have a program on schools, suicide prevention in schools, and we're using Texas as an example, so that will be really valuable. And finally, we have an LGBTQ program presentation, and we'll be able to highlight some of the applications of Cognito programs in altering the culture and being inclusive to LGBTQ youth and the implications there. So a lot of good stuff, so we're excited.
We're excited that all of those presentations. I didn't realize the list was so big. Bart!
I know.
I know I can't add that the one on school suicide is one I definitely want to check out. Shelby's got some great things going on. Wednesday, I want everybody to come Wednesday at noon. There's a crisis luncheon. You do have to bring your own food to the crisis luncheon, so it's more of a time where you can eat, but you bring your own. I couldn't make this up if you wanted me to. I could. I mean, I would, but I'm not. So there's a crisis luncheon presentation. Pat Morris, the outgoing crisis chair, myself, Gwen Cadis from the Domestic Violence Hotline in Chicago, Karen Foley from BOAA in Washington. We're talking about lived experience in the workplace as crisis centers start recognizing that we need to start, most of us that are in crisis intervention have some lived experience. What a shocker. And we need to be talking about that. So we're going to have some conversations about what that's like, what that means, that panel. I believe I'm on the panel with you and Zinger on Thursday at 3, April. And so I'm really excited about the conference. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it will. And also, I feel like this is like one of those things where you've spent another hour with us at SPSM. I know that it's counterintuitive that we keep talking about how engaged we are at suicide conferences, but do remember, this is suicide prevention. These are folks who are really trying to build a world where no one dies by suicide anymore, even though it is a leading cause of death in the world today. And so these are folks, you'll never meet a more passionate, authentic, driven, brilliant group of human beings in your life. And so spending the week with us, whether we're all at Sleepaway Camp in Chicago together at hashtag AAS16, or if you follow along on Twitter or follow along on Facebook, we'll be tweeting, we'll be curating, we'll be periscoping. You'll be able to catch the things that are interesting to you. Thank you so much, Shelby and Karen, for joining us. Everybody give them.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Everyone, night.
Good night.